3.
Assalamu alaikum. Salman, can you invite me on Messenger for global, because my phone is messed up. I have to go to my
Okay.
laptop. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Please send me the link on Messenger. Thanks.
Oh, the mic is over here. How's the sound?
It's good. You're live. We're live now, yeah.
Right. So how's the sound? Is my sound coming through
It's
well?
perfect. Yeah. Perfect, yeah.
It's
It's
perfect.
Turn
yeah.
off camera because
Now
sometimes
it's getting bad. Yeah.
Something happened. What did you do?
Bad. Bad.
what? Okay, so am I supposed to read starting with chapter 7, verse 59?
Yes.
Man, the cameras. I wish the camera would make me look better.
What do you mean?
I need one of those apps.
Yeah,
Makeup app?
you need to install.
Makeup app, you know, those things. So should I start now, you guys? You ready? God willing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm muting my mic.
In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Let me start before we read the Quran. Gotta find that verse. Let's first take a look at chapter 16, verse 98. Should always remember this before we read the Quran. And it says, God tells us, when you read the Quran, you shall seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. He has no power over those who believe and trust in their Lord. His power is limited to those who choose him as their master, those who choose him as their God. When we substitute one revelation in place of another, and God is fully aware of what he reveals, they say you made it up. Indeed, most of them do not know. Say the Holy Spirit brought it down from your Lord, truthfully, to assure those who believe and to provide a beacon and good news for the submitters. So this is an important commandment. Our salvation is attained by knowing God's message to us. And the Quran is God's message to us. Satan will do his utmost to keep us from being redeemed. Hence, God tells us to seek refuge in God from Satan when we read the Quran, so that we get it right and it's not distorted. God willing. Okay, so I seek refuge in God from Satan reject. I seek refuge in him from the devil. I seek refuge in him. Okay, so we're gonna read chapter 7, starting with verse 59 is where we left off on the last Quran study. This is about Noah. I'm gonna start now. We sent Noah to his people, saying, "O my people, worship God. You have no other God beside him. I fear for you the retribution of an awesome day." The leaders among his people said, "We see that you are far astray." He said, "O my people, I am not astray. I am a messenger from the Lord of the universe. I delivered to you the messages of my Lord, and I advise you. And I know from God what you do not know. Is it too much of a wonder that a reminder should come to you from your Lord through a man like you, to warn you and to lead you to righteousness, that you may attain mercy?" They rejected him. Consequently, we saved those with him in the ark, and we drowned those who rejected our revelations. They were blind. So there is a verse in the Quran that God tells us that the Quran confirms previous scriptures. When the scripture came to them from God, and even though it agrees with chapter 2, verse 89, here's one of the verses. When this scripture came to them from God, and even though it agrees with and confirms what they have, and even though they used to prophesy its advent when they talked with the disbelievers, when their own prophecy came to pass, they disbelieved therein. God's condemnation thus afflicts disbelievers. 291. So the Quran actually confirms previous scripture and consummates and supersedes. Now, when you have a confirmation of something, as God tells us that the Quran confirms previous scripture, if you do not see it in your confirmation, then it is not confirmed. A confirmation would actually tell you the things that are there, that are in the thing that is confirming. So there's many things that have been added and distorted in the previous scripture that are not confirmed in the Quran. So like we are right now reading about Noah, and we will find nowhere in the Quran the ridiculous stuff that they say about the history of Noah. Not the only fact is that it was an ark, and it was that the Noah is a true history. It's not a story. That's confirmed. The flood, not that it was a worldwide flood. It was a localized flood. And the stuff about the size of the boat and the measurements and all that, no, that was not in there. It was actually from Quran tells us that it was a very primitive, like a barge, just logs tied together. And this is what the Quran confirms. Not, and the animals were just his local farm animals, a male and female of each, right? Not every animal on the face of the earth. And the flood did not kill every human being on the face of the earth, and whatever. And the flood did not cover the entire earth either. I believe we got to go. Well, let's see. Let me find another verse real quick that talks about confirmation. Okay, book before Moses. Quran is all we need. 12:111. In their history, there is a lesson for those who possess intelligence. I'm reading chapter 12, verse 111. This is not fabricated hadith. This Quran confirms all previous scriptures, provides the details of everything, and is a beacon of mercy for those who believe. So the Quran provides the details of everything. So the details that you see in today's Bible, which is not the original scriptures that were given, that God gave, they have been altered. So Quran does confirm that there was a Bible, there is a Bible, and there are previous scriptures. That's right. And it does not confirm every single thing that was added in there. And the stories, the distortions of Noah are a major thing. And there are also things that they say about Abraham, which are not confirmed in the Quran either. Quran tells us the religious duties and practices that Abraham was given. It tells us everything about Abraham that we need to know, and all the religious duties. So that's what if you want to find out about Abraham, you look in the Quran. Quran is the updated scripture from God. The other scriptures are, as it says in the Quran, they are superseded, and you really do not need them anymore. You could be satisfied with with Quran. And with all these people that have been turned off by the ridiculous stories they say about Noah, it's about time that we have the truth and people are not repulsed by dumb stories that people made up, and we can stick with the word of God. So everybody should be happy, you know. We got people. If you go on Netflix, you'll see all these stand-up comedian shows, and so many of them mock religion. And Noah's Ark is the one they use, and people laugh. They get the whole audience laughing, and repeatedly on Netflix, people would talk about it. Bill Burr recently, I just watched the other day. It's amazing what he said, actually. He said something about, well, this is outdated, man. God should send an updated version. And it's funny that he said that because he thinks he's an atheist. Well, he claims to be an atheist, but God did exactly what he was joking about. And everybody laughed like, that's a good idea. Yeah, it actually happened. It's the truth. It is a good idea. And God did do that. Yeah. It's called the Quran, the updated version. And yeah, some of their gripes against these twisted stories the humans added, and sometimes they might have had good intentions, sometimes not. Sometimes accidentally trying to interpret or maybe trying to clarify or expand upon what they knew, so they maybe printed updated versions with their interpretations or whatever. So maybe that could be the many reasons why. But one thing for sure I believe is that Satan, whatever the reason is, Satan would love to jump on them and say, yeah, that's a good idea, yeah, change it, add some stuff to it, whatever your righteous or unrighteous intentions might be or mistakes. So I'm reading the story of Noah, and so let's see if I can find that verse. Okay, chapter 11, verse 40. When our judgment came and the atmosphere boiled over, we said, carry on it a pair of each kind, together with your family, except those who are condemned. Carry with you those who have believed, and only a few have believed with him. And there's a explanation. Chapter. Oh wait, let me go to chapter 54, verse 13, because the one I was looking at that's a subtitle, a footnote explaining that the ark is actually logs tied together. But if you go without, you don't even need the footnote. You go straight to a verse that says it. Chapter 54, verse 13. We carried him on a watercraft made of logs and ropes. There it is. No cubits and mortar and tendons and type of building stuff. None of that. It's just logs tied together with ropes. And I believe that this is the first time that man traveled by water, I believe. Should I do this? I was looking at the history of water. You can Google history. There's a history, a scientific research on the history of humans traveling by water. I forgot what the term for traveling by water is. There's a technical term, but if you look it up, you can find that the most solid evidence they have for human water travel is not that long ago. I forgot what it was, but the reason I'm bringing that up, I can't find the article. Maybe I should have just not brought this up, but you can go look it up. And I believe that. So the reason I'm bringing this up is the connection with Noah being this is the first human water travel. You see, because why would you say that? Because God inspired him to build, to be able to avoid the flood, to get on a, to make this thing, and he called it an ark. He told, God gave us the names of everything. So the name he gave us is ark. He gave Noah the name ark, and he told him to tie logs together. So therefore, this is the first time that we have confirmation that God has told somebody to travel on water and how to build a vessel. We have nothing else from God confirming God teaching us how to travel on water. Let me go back now to, let's see, what oh my people, I'm not a stranger. I deliver to you. I'm going to go back to what we were reading, and I'm looking through the verses that we read, see if it's something that I want to say, because I might have missed something that I wanted to say. Advise you. This part, 763, I read it. Is it too much of a wonder that a reminder should come to you from your Lord through a man like you? I guess a lot of times people expect magic, not magic, but what most people would think magic, like some kind of, he's supposed to pull a rabbit out of the hat, or he's supposed to make a mountain levitate if he's a messenger of God, the book has to come from the sky, or whatever the messenger says, you have to be able, God has to give you that same in your heart. You need the same thing that he has. Otherwise, they won't believe him. It's like, well, and this is not the way it is. God sends human beings among, he has human beings deliver messages among human beings, and they're just humans like us, and sometimes God will have them do things that are impossible, and because actually God does it through them, as we know from the story of Jesus, as we know what Moses did, and we know what Noah did. I mean, how did he know that was going to happen? No way he knew the future and how to survive this thing that nobody would have known how to survive it, because God taught him how to survive it. So he is just a man, and he confirms it. And I believe all the messengers said, yeah, I'm just a man. So, let's see. Of course, let's see, consequently saved him. Right. So this idea that God sent a messenger, and all the people who were obedient and believed, and let's say obedient. Let's say they still had doubts, right? But they were obedient, and they got on the ark. I don't know, but I'm gonna listen to this guy. Wouldn't they have been saved because they got on the ark? And then maybe because they were obedient, God would give them more faith. There's verses where it talks about it. So I believe this is the case. The reason I'm saying this, and I believe this is the case with every time God sends a messenger. You people listen, try to understand, listen what they have to say, think about it, make a good decision. Don't be rash. Don't make the wrong decision, and that's how we get saved. That's how we get redeemed, because God is the one who's sending this message. We listen, we follow, we obey, and then God takes us to higher levels of information and faith and knowledge, and God will remove all doubts over time. He knows each one of us, so each one of us have how we go through this, how God has us going through this, our journeys and studies. So this is the case. Every messenger, as I think Christians know that you can't reject any revelations from God. I remember having a discussion with somebody, and I said that to him, and he goes, yeah, that's right. and gave him a good little jolt, because I said, well, this is the Quran. It's a revelation from God, so you better make the right decision. You better read it, because you don't want to be one of those people, because you know the consequence. It's the same they claim about Jesus. You know, you can't reject Jesus or you're going to go to hell, right? But they take it to another level. I think this might be how they got some of the distortions is, you know, almost that means you have to idolize him or you're going to go to hell. No, it's because you reject God's revelations that you would go to hell. It's not about idolizing Jesus or any messenger. It's about obeying God and believing something that God has done. You, anyways, so they rejected him. Consequently, we saved him and those with him in the ark, and we drowned those who rejected our revelations. They were blind, blindness of the heart, of faith, blindness, deafness of the ears for not listening, not trying to listen. So let me go on. Let me read 7, verse 65, chapter 7, continuing on. Okay, to Ad we sent their brother Hud. He said, O my people, worship God. You have no other God beside him. Would you then observe righteousness? The leaders who disbelieved among his people said, we see that you are behaving foolishly, and we think that you are a liar. He said, O my people, there is no foolishness in me. I am a messenger from the Lord of the universe. I deliver to you my Lord's messages, and I am honestly advising you. Is it too much of a wonder that a messenger should come to you from your Lord through a man like you to warn you? Recall that he made you inheritors after the people of Noah and multiplied your number. Remember God's blessings that you may succeed. So here's something that Quran confirms, is that seems to be saying that Hud are the people that came, Ad and Hud are the people who came after Noah. They must be from the descendants of Noah. That part I think is my opinion, but it seemed to be confirming that, it is literally saying that they were the inheritors of the land after Noah. So they must be the people who came off the ark, the descendants. You guys tell me later what you think. Let me go to next verse. They said, did you come to make us worship God alone and abandon what our parents used to worship? We challenge you to bring the doom you threaten us with, if you are truthful. There's a subtitle that says, Following the Parents Blindly, a Human Tragedy. That subtitle is referring to what they said about following what their parents used to worship. We need to how do I say this? Let me read some next verse and see if it comes out. 71, he said, you have incurred condemnation and wrath from your Lord. Do you argue with me in defense of innovations you have fabricated, you and your parents, which were never authorized by God? Therefore wait, and I will wait along with you. This is the descendants of Noah, and they're already fabricating nonsense. Well, you and your parents, never authorized by God. So all these things that they were making up are innovations, fabrications, religious nonsense, lies. Maybe they even had idols, or if they didn't have idols, they had God, and then they had idols. Who knows what it was? But they seem to just follow that, and they're not interested in hearing anything else. God never authorized these lies. Used to worship and challenge you to bring the doom. Okay, let me read the next verse. We saved him and those with him by mercy from us, and we annihilated those who rejected our revelations and refused to be believers. Everybody's gonna die anyways, you know. We have a short lifespan here, and then we leave our bodies, and the real us, our soul, will leave these temporary bodies. So that is inevitable. Death is inevitable for every human being, of the body, not the soul. When they're annihilated, I mean, there was really no more purpose, because the one purpose that we have here is to, because of the heavenly feud, is to learn and get back into paradise. This is just a temporary, what do you call this? Temporary reprise? What's that word? Starts with a C-R-E. God gave us a temporary
reprieve.
Reprieve, is that it? Like, we have to go, he created this earth as a learning ground for us to learn about the error we made about our judgment of the omnipotence of God, and the greatness of God, and to choose better, make a better choice. If people are not going to listen to God, you know, there's really no more purpose except for to hang around and debauchery and joy and fun until you die and go to hell. Or like this, he annihilated them, it's over. They had no more purpose anyway. So, except for what? What are they going to do? Fight against God's messengers? Maybe even try to, fight against God's messengers. What would they have done? Like try to spread false counter information, and deceive people not to follow the messenger, and bring children up and turn them into idol worshippers and disbelievers, and teach and advocate them the wrong thing. So what, God decided, no, it's over for them. No more continuation of their progeny, their children and their descendants. It's over. So, except for the people who actually believed there was a purpose for them. They have a good purpose and a good destiny if they continue to do that, if we make the right choices. Let me continue. Saleh, chapter 7, verse 73, continuing on. To Thamud we sent their brother Saleh. He said, O my people, worship God. You have no other God beside him. Proof has been provided to you from your Lord. Here is God's camel to serve as a sign for you. Let her eat from God's land, and do not touch her to any harm, lest you incur a painful retribution. Recall that he made you inheritors after Ad, and established you on earth, building mansions in its valleys, and carving homes from its mountains. You shall remember God's blessings, and do not roam the earth corruptingly. So, seems like these people were living like we are today, mansions and in the valleys, and carving homes into the mountains. We that's pretty fancy, back then. And we're living like that today, even more. We're really in today's progress world is really living in the lap of luxury. I mean, it's everywhere. Yeah. But that's off topic. So we had, what is it? Who was it? Ad was sent to Hud. And then Thamud was sent to Saleh, and he mentions Ad, so they came after Ad, and so Thamud and Saleh came after Ad and Hud, and Ad and Hud came after Noah. I believe this is like a timeline is showing us. Also, it's showing us that these messengers from God, they all said the same thing. Will my people worship God? You have no other God beside him. Worship. Not just say, like some people today say, well, I believe that's good enough. I believe, and that is good enough. I don't need, maybe somebody would talk to somebody about submission, which is the description of the religion is to dedicate your worship to God alone and believe that in the greatness of God and that you should not worship anything but God, and to believe in God, and to make sure that all your worship practices and your prayers and everything are just to God alone, no other entities, no praying to statues. If you believe this, and then that becomes your worship practice. So this is a description, and then you get the guidance, and then there's some practices that God will give you once you get the Quran, and you know that there are certain practices. So I really went off topic here. Where was I going with this? To Thamud, we sent their. Oh, so all these guys said the same thing. Well, my people worship God. So this is actually it says the word worship. It doesn't say just believe. It's not like I hear a lot of people saying today is like, yeah, I'm good. Thank you. I believe that. I'm out. See you later. I'm not interested in doing contact prayers 5 times a day or fasting for the month of Ramadan. I believe in God knows what's in my heart and he's going to forgive me. But all these messengers said worship. So it's not enough to just believe. There's certain things you have to do, and there's a reason why. And God teaches us in the Quran, you have to learn. We have to read the other verses of what God tells us. And the worship practices actually grow your soul. And there's a whole explanation of everything about growing the soul and what's the difference of growing your soul or wronging your soul, and the soul getting nurtured or getting the opposite of nurtured, weaker and smaller. And those, we're not reading those verses right now, but worship God is what God tells us to do. And all the messengers so far, 3 of them, was it Thamud, Noah, they all said the same thing: worship God. Let's see. Let me continue. 775. It has a subtitle that says "The Message, Proof of Messengership." The message, I think that with the quotation mark, like colon, semicolon, or colon, the message, colon, proof of messengership. I guess it's saying that proof of message is proof of messengership. Let's see what the verse says. Verse 75, I'm continuing on. The arrogant leaders among his people said to the common people who believed, how do you know that Saleh is sent by his Lord? They said, the message he brought has made us believe. The arrogant ones said, we disbelieve in what you believe in. Subsequently, they slaughtered the camel, rebelled against their Lord's command, and said, O Saleh, bring the doom you threaten us with, if you are really a messenger. Consequently, the quake annihilated them, leaving them dead in their homes. He turned away from them, saying, O my people, I have delivered my Lord's message to you and advised you, but you do not like any advisors. So that's what I left out, is the camel. So I'm not sure if it's in the Quran, but I don't know where the verses are, but this camel would not, is this correct? That this camel would not drink, would only drink on a certain day, and would only eat on a certain day, and but they had a designated time for, okay, this is the time that the camels will drink and eat or whatever, and then all the domesticated animals. Huh? So this camel
26
wouldn't
155.
follow.
26 155.
Thanks. Thank you. That's so low. 135. 135.
155.
Thank you.
155.
Edward, your voice is getting muffled when you look away. There's also 5428.
What? Okay, here. Chapter 26, verse 155. Okay, so this is about the camel. He said, "Here is a camel that will drink only on a day that is assigned to her, a day that is different from your specific days of drinking. Do not touch her with any harm, lest you incur retribution on an awesome day." They slaughtered her and thus incurred sorrow. So this camel, would not eat on any other day. Usually camels are domesticated, and they can be trained, just drink on, they'll be trained and they'll drink on this day and they won't drink on another day. But this camel would not drink on the days, they say. And they would have to bring it only on the day that God designed that this is the day that the camel will drink. So it became a test for them, and it was also one of his signs. And he said, "Don't kill this camel, or something's gonna happen to you." And they, I guess, didn't listen. Maybe they were frustrated with this camel too, but they killed it, and that's when they, disobeyed, and a sign, I guess you could call it a sign that God gave to his messenger. How did this man know about this camel? Or is it possible that this human could have trained this camel, that no matter what they do, they can't retrain it? They can't get that camel to stop drinking on that day and drink on the day, he couldn't have done that, because the camel could be trained, but it couldn't. They couldn't do it. But if it had been a human trained that camel, another human could have untrained it and trained it a different way. But they could not, because God was the one who had that camel doing what God wants. So this is what happens when people reject God's signs. And there's also the thing that God, what does it say? The message, proof of messengership. So for a lot of people, they hear some things when they hear some scripture, and it strikes a note, it strikes a chord in their heart. They something sounds right and they like it, or maybe they had tried to figure things out, and then they hear it and they're like, yeah, that's what I thought, or that sounds right. And so these people at this time, that was their proof for them, the proof of messengership, that this person is right, because everything he's saying, I believe it. It's like, how could I believe this guy brings stuff that I never heard before, but I believe it. And it's, to people, it feels like, how could you believe something that never existed, that you never heard before? So for them, that was sufficient proof that it has to be true. This is kind of esoteric. I don't know if I need to go any further with this, but I think this happens to a lot of people when they hear like Quran. A lot of stuff is like, yeah, it all sounds right, and yet they still say, but they're gonna reject it. And I think I think, in my opinion, a lot of Jews and Christians would hear Quran, or even not Jews, let me not say them only, all religious people would hear stuff about from the Quran and they would say, that sounds right. And they would believe it, but they still think for some reason they got some baggage that they're not gonna do it. They're just gonna be like, yeah, and they're just gonna walk away anyway. And that's too bad that you would actually believe in something and just say, never mind, and just dump it. They should take that and run with it. They should take that ball and run to the end zone with it. Don't just drop the ball and walk away. And then another thing is, what is this? It calls them the common people in chapter 75. The arrogant leaders among his people said to the common people who believe. So they're looking down at commoners, other people who are not of higher stature, not prominent. Maybe they don't have the wealth, or they don't have the money and the mansions, or they're not, highly educated, or they don't have big companies, or they're not politicians, or they're not in the military. Whatever was the positions of prominence at that time might have been military leaders, and their families, or commerce leaders, traders. But these people, common people, might have been, just workers. And these leaders, arrogant one, that might have been a kind of a turnoff for them. Like, oh, we're better than these people, and they believe, but they're just a bunch of peons. They're just commoners. We don't have to believe like low-level commoners. We're the special people. That kind of thinking might be really maybe they thought like this. I think there's a similar story about Noah. I think that the people who were against Noah were saying same thing. What was it? How can we believe when the worst among us are following you? They said to Noah, something like that. Let me keyword search. Worst among us? Is that it? Why didn't it go through? Does anybody know that verse? The worst among us? Is that it? Is it chapter 11? Did I just read it? Chapter 11, verse 27? The leaders who disbelieved among his people said, we see that you are no more than a human being like us, and we see that the first people to follow you are the worst among us. We see that you do not possess any advantage over us. Indeed, we think you are a liar. So chapter 11, verse 27, I believe that's about Noah. And they're similar, arrogant leaders, positions of prominence, looking down on the lower commoners. So it's another way Satan or our jinn companions can dupe us into not listening. In fact, their statement is very similar to Satan's statement. I'm better than him. I'm made from fire. He's made from mud. Just an excuse. Maybe they're just using them as a scapegoat like Satan did. This had nothing to do with that. It's just because they just don't believe, whether the commoners are following him or not. They're just saying this because even if it wasn't that way, even if the arrogant leaders were following the messenger, they would still not follow because they just don't believe. And they're making people to be their scapegoat, to be their blame. Maybe. Let's see, how far did I get saying, oh, my people I've delivered? So, Sally, bring the doom, threaten us with. So I left off in 79, God willing. I'm going to read the next one. I'm going to go on. Chapter 7, verse 80. And this is about Lot, and homosexuality is condemned. Lot said to his people, "You commit such an abomination. No one in the world has done it before you. You practice sex with the men instead of the women. Indeed, you are transgressing people." His people responded by saying, "Evict them from your town. They are people who wish to be pure." Consequently, we saved him and his family, but not his wife. She was with the dune. We showered them with a certain shower. Note the consequences for the guilty. So that's talking about Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Lot, the brother of Abraham, right? They later went and lived separately, Lot with his family, and this is talking about Lot. I guess Sodom and Gomorrah. Is that two cities, or is that the name of it? Either way, Lot lived near them, and it says showered. So apparently, they were hailed with a shower of rocks or whatever it was. This is the shower, that something was showered on them. I guess everybody thinks it was brimstone from the sky with, firing rocks on fire and stuff like that. There's another verse where I think it says they turned it upside down. I think in the Quran there's a verse that says that. One time somebody showed me an image. They did something because the verse says upside down. Let's see if it does say that before I demonstrate what this guy demonstrated. Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed. Chapter 11, verse 82. When our judgment came, we turned it upside down, and we showered it with hard, devastating rocks. As if turning upside down is not enough. And then buried it. It looks like we turned it upside down, and then chapter 15, verse 74, we turned it upside down and showered them with devastating rocks. So there it is. This is when I was first starting to study and learn the religion and study the God scripture, Quran. I never followed religion before. This first time I ever followed religion is after I got the AEVQ, authorized English version of the Quran from God's messenger. It's in English, and somebody said, "Yeah, turn it upside down." And he did this, and I was like, "Oh, wow! I never thought about that." Just scoop the city up and just boom, turn it upside down. That was just when he did that gesture. That was so I'm not saying that's how it happened, but turn it upside down. Literally, that's what that means. That's horrific. As if rocks are needed after that. It's probably why it doesn't exist. Nothing, let me go on reading. Let me go to other parts of this. The shower. I was talking about the shower. And I kind of laughed about this. I did a little laugh. You practice sex with the men instead of the women, and I frowned, and I did it again. It's just so weird. It's so ridiculous. Like, what? It just doesn't even make sense. It's not even like, why? What is the point? It doesn't make any sense. Practice sex with men instead of women. You're transgressing people. Let's just say you're weirdos. Like, why would anybody do that? Like, okay, I mean, we're not even genetically, anatomically, we're not made for that. That's not, what is the pleasure? Okay. Let me talk about something else. His people responded by saying, evict them from your town. They are people who wish to be pure. So there's other verses where they didn't even want Lot to talk. So they wanted to stifle the information. They wanted to shut down his talking and spreading this knowledge and inviting and advocating to other people. In fact, there's where they came to him and they said, did we not stop you, right? Did we not tell you to stop? I don't know where the verse is, sorry. Is this it? 15, chapter 15, verse 70? Did we not enjoin you from contacting anyone? Let me see. I'm going to look that verse real quick. Yeah, that's what they said when they came to Lot. Did we not enjoin you from contacting any? So they wanted to shut him down. They don't want him to talk. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because recently I had somebody do that to me in my congregation. We, the people on this pen app right now, all of us had that done to us by our own constituents, by our own people in our own religion group. They told us to stop talking, but they use other ways. They didn't threaten us to rape the men, rape us, homosexually rape. No, they told us that we're not righteous and we're not kind people, or we're dividers and we're causing disputes and we have to be unified and we have to drop the subject. And they were telling us to do the same thing. They're enjoining us from talking about it. I went to a Quran study where somebody said, "Are you going to talk about circumcision again?" It was only like the second or third time that we talked about it at a Quran study. "I'm not coming here anymore. If you talk about it in the Friday sermon, that's it. I'm never coming back." And I thought that was so unkind, so rude and arrogant to think that they can dominate my congregation and tell me what and when I can talk. But I knew it, that I had seen it before. And this is the same way. This is, you think the mafia is going to want you to go and start pointing them out? You know what they're going to do to you? You're going to disappear. Be buried in the mountains. It's the same. They want you to shut up too. In prison, if you see something, you didn't see nothing. Which is this is the same snitches in prison. So this is the same mission. And it's the same thing. It's the same with circumcision, how they came after us, but without the threats. But they came after us without the threats. But my voice again. But they didn't threaten us in my community. But threatened us in my threat. So by claiming that we're dividers, we're causing disputes, this is threatening us with the wrath of God. Because if we are doing the things that
There is feedback. Someone has to turn off the microphone.
Why is my voice echoing?
It's good now.
That's weird. So if they interpreted that we're causing disputes or we're dividing or we're not united, and these are all descriptions. Dividing is actually sectarian in the Quran. So if we talk about circumcision, we're guilty of causing disputes and we're not united and we're causing divisions. Well, a division in the Quran, that is a sectarian, is a divider. So what they're saying to us, they don't have to threaten us like Lot did to Sodom and Gomorrah. They're threatening us with God's wrath, and we're going to go to hell. So it's the same thing that happened. And I had to stop talking about the subject of circumcision because of this, because they argued. It couldn't just be a subject of discuss. It's the same they did to Lot, but at least they had the nerve to say we're going to do it ourselves. They didn't use God as their gimp, their henchman. They said they took care of at least they were more straightforward about it. So let me go back to what we were reading. Consequently, we saved him and his family, but not his wife. She was with the doom. They have made a lot of stories about his wife, right? Why was the wife of Lot doomed? I do not know. There's this thing about the pillar of salt, but I don't know if it's confirmed in the Quran. They say that she was walking and she turned around to look, and that was all it took. That kind of makes sense to me. Like, she was not willing to walk away. She had to look back. She had a longing to be with them. Or she couldn't just say, you know, take what God had given her and go with it, and don't have any hesitation and doubt, and don't regret it. Go forward with your life. Don't look back upon those people. Leave them. She had to look back. That makes sense to me, but I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe it's something else. So I got to 84. Should I stop there? Right?
Yeah, Masha, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah? Great. So God willing, I'll stop then. Thanks, guys, for letting me read.
Masha, thank you, Edward.
So
Thanks for letting us listen.
Right now, we're going to do the open discussion. I'm not going to read anymore, so everybody can say their comments and disagreements with me or whatever.
Thanks, Edward.
Thank you, Mashallah. So I think I see we have a newcomer also. We have Mojgan join us also. Salãmun Alaykum. I think she's probably
Salāmun
not.
Alaykum, Mojgan.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salāmun Alaykum.
I think you're on mute.
Alaikum,
Toby.
welcome.
I'm just looking at I'm laughing at Nudrat's camera angle. Just the forehead.
Camera is on?
That's my
Yeah, your
trademark.
camera's
You
on.
didn't know?
Now it's off.
It was on the whole time?
Yeah, it was on the whole time. Yeah.
Oh my god, no way.
No, it's okay. We thought you knew, but it was mostly facing the wall.
Oh, okay, good. Because I'm still in my bed.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we just see the top part of it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, guys.
We got
No
somebody
problem.
with us in a turban.
So, Salāmun Alaykum. I just had a couple comments. You know, it's amazing how this litany of messengers and warnings and disasters is repeated in the Quran. It's in Surah 54. We got Noah, Ad, Thamud, Lot, Pharaoh. You got it in Surah 7. Noah, Hud, which is Hud was for Ad, Salih was for Thamud, Lot, and then it adds Midian. Oh no, that was Shuaib. Yeah, it adds Midian on that one, and then it's in 11, Surah 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then again it's in Surah 26. The same set of people. This over and over, and then what's amazing is, or pertinent, is that the messenger is tied with this latest messenger too. That there would be an advent of a terrible retribution. I think it's in what is it? Surah 34. A proof came to them. I'll just read it, 34:43. And there's, by the way, there's no way that this would mean Muhammad, because what was the terrible retribution that came after Muhammad? Let me just read it first. When our proofs were recited to them perfectly clear, they said, "This is a simple This is simply a man who wants to divert you from the way your parents are worshiping. They also said, these are fabricated lies. Those who disbelieved said about the truth that those who disbelieved also said about the truth that came to them, this is obviously magic. So this is what they're saying about it. And then God says in 34:45, those before them disbelieved. And even though they did not see 1/10 of the miracle we have given to this generation, when they disbelieved my messengers, how severe was my retribution? And so then 34:46, it says, say, I ask you to do one thing, devote yourselves to God in pairs or as in individuals, then reflect. Your friend Rashad is not crazy. He is a manifest warner to you just before the advent of a terrible retribution. And so, and then, of course, all of these are referenced in a submitter's perspective where the messenger says that it's going to happen like the time of Noah. Only those who stand with God's messenger will be saved. So clearly, a great miracle came. None of the other ones were even a tenth of it. And they rejected, most people have rejected this message again. And this is 10 times, not even, it's more than 10 times the miracle of all the other ones. And so can you imagine the retribution that is imminent if that's the case? Because that's over and over again. A messenger comes, they disregard it, retribution. The messenger comes, they disregard it, retribution. And so Allah knows when, but I can't see what would be the significance in the Quran of mentioning it. Let's see how many times. 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 different times going through this same story. Anyway. Also, the word you were looking for was respite, I think. That was the word, not I can't remember what I told you.
Reprisal.
Yeah, reprieve. Yeah, it was respite, I think. That's what you're looking for.
Reprieve. Yes, that's the word, respite.
I also thought it was important what you said, the message that they brought made them believers. And I mean, I think of that, of this latest message. I mean, he says, worship God alone. And then he points out all of these new concepts from the Quran. And they were like, oh my goodness, that explains so many things, And so that message of, for example, if we die before 40, we're going to heaven. That kind of a thing, that explains suffering and how that the original sin was before we came here. That was part of the information we were given. And, it makes you a believer, that message.
Yeah. Also, one thing I wanted to mention, we talked about training camels. And I don't think you can train like any animal like to drink or eat on a certain day. Like no camel like will have like a internal calendar to know it's a Saturday or a Sunday, for example. Like it will be, because the way you train these animals to do something is like, you reward them based on certain action, and they can sort of correlate it to something that they see, like, for example, you have a dog, and, a dog, you tell a dog to sit, and every time he sits down, he gets a treat. So he associates the sitting with that word and the reward, and he gets it, right? But if you had to train a dog, let's say, I mean, dog's probably more intelligent than a camel when it comes to being trained, right? So if you had to train a dog, I mean, there's no way you can train a dog to distinguish a Saturday from a Sunday, you know. And I think Sam would go for a camel as well. So but the fact that this camel, not only did the camel do it on a certain day, but also the fact that he did it on a day that was different from their days, I think it was a sign from God, a significant sign from God that Saleh was a messenger, and he couldn't have. I don't think he could have trained him or anything. I think it was just something that God had put in that camel and let Saleh know that this is his sign that God is giving him. You guys there?
Yes, we heard you. Okay.
Okay. Okay. There's a lot of silence.
Yeah.
I'm just agreeing.
Yeah.
I can't. I can't. There's no input. It's already saying everything.
I was going to say also that Edward was talking about how the Bible, it had distortions, and how the Quran came and corrected everything. And it's always been the case that it's been just one religion. God sends a message, the people do it. But it's interesting how whatever Satan does, people like what Satan brings more. It's
Yep.
like it's in the like in Defense of the Bible, where he's talking about that 10% of the Bible is distortions, but that's what people are attracted to follow. I mean, there's all that other stuff in the Bible, but what it's amazing that we are like the honey for human beings is lies and distortion.
Yeah,
That's
if you see Surah 7, verse 146. It's interesting. It says, divine intervention keeps the disbelievers in the dark. It says, I will divert from my revelations those who are arrogant on earth without justification. Consequently, when they see every kind of proof, they will not believe, and when they see the path of guidance, they will not adapt it as their path. But when they see the path of straying, they will adopt it as their path. This is the consequence of their rejecting our proofs and being totally heedless thereof.
Yeah,
So that
it is very noticeable as well, because it has happened multiple times where I share the mathematical miracle, and then people say, "Oh, so the words match up. 26 occurrences of day and 26 occurrences of night, or whatever. Ooh, that's a mathematical miracle." I'm like, what? No. Because there is apparently some mathematical miracle the Muslims have invented. Or, well, it is not a miracle, but it is still significant, like interesting, but it's not a miracle. For example, when you have a matching number of words, opposites, or whatever, that's not the miracle. But for some reason, that's what's being pushed by the majority, by the Muslims. So when you mention mathematical miracle of the Quran, people will be thinking about what the Muslims are promoting. So that's interesting. Another interesting thing is once you explain this difference, and a person tries to study it, then their first response is, "Oh, it's numerology." I'm like, what? No. I mean, these divine interventions. It's uh, very interesting, very real.
Very real. Yeah.
Because you can tell people, "Oh, trust me, just read this, and you will find the evidence to believe in God, and you will be saved." No one is gonna believe you if you say that. They always assume you're a liar. It's amazing. So yeah.
Jeff, were you finished with your comment? It seemed like
Yeah.
you were.
Oh yeah. No, I might have left the sentence hanging, but that was the essence of it. Yes, I think I did. It was just I probably would have just reiterated it just because it's so astonishing how over and over again people like the lie. I mean, it's just the lies are just a small, tiny percentage of it. And that's what they are attracted to. That's the thing that's the thing they do, just like the gospel. In the gospel, it barely says there's some kind of hint that maybe Jesus is some kind of divine thing, possibly in a gospel of John, but none of the other ones say anything about Jesus being divine or anything like that. So it's like they look for this little tiny thing, and then they go to the Old Testament and justify it with all these other stories. It's astonishing to the degree to which we follow these satanic ideas. And then, of course, the Hadith in traditional Islam. And I mean, you look at just the Sharia laws and to the degree in which people are motivated to go with some creation, some lie, and we see it even recently that there's no reason to hold on to traditions, but yet people like it.
What verse did Solomon read when you were saying that? 746? What?
7:146.
Oh, 146. Okay.
I would just add to that, no wonder the message, I mean, it's been one religion, but no wonder God had to always update it with a new messenger. Because it didn't take long. It's happened so quickly.
Everybody's really quiet today. We don't have a lot of people today.
Yeah, I think there's like a night of power hangover or something.
Yeah.
I found in the comment that Edward mentioned about the first boat. That's interesting because it explains their mentality. Like, what are you building? What is this? Because I always imagined the place to be down in a valley surrounded by mountains, and then this guy comes and builds a boat middle of nowhere, and people are like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? But apparently it was really strange to them. Like, what is this?
Yeah. Yeah, it says in Surah 36, verse 41, invention of the first ship. Another sign for them is that we carried their ancestors on the loaded ark. Then we created the same for them to ride in. Yeah, so it makes sense. Like they were laughing and he probably, if you probably told them, well, I'm gonna use it to ride on the ocean, they would be laughing at it. Like, yeah, right.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then his children, like one of his child who refused to jump on the boat, is like, oh my god, my dad is crazy. What is that thing he's
Right.
on?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to the mountain instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point about the creation of the being on a watercraft, because I never thought of it like this, but if there were any boats around, there would have been a few more people saved. They would have gotten some boats, you know. They would have just
Yeah. The first solution was to. I mean, they didn't even think about the raft as a solution.
right.
So because it was so strange to them.
Right.
That's interesting.
So in that sense, the raft is a miracle.
Yeah. It's provision from God.
Yeah.
Invention.
Yeah, maybe that raft was his sign.
That was very quiet.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, are you on a boat?
Please don't rock my boat. It's smooth sailing. A lot of people don't want to get their boat rocked. Yeah, that's what happens. Status quo and everything. People are comfortable in one setting, and somebody comes along, gives new information, get them out of their comfort zone, and they have to use their brain to understand. Nobody wants to do that.
No, yeah, it's a human tendency
Yeah,
to
human
be
tendency.
comfortable.
With your whatever your beliefs are or where you're living. Who wants to challenge it? No. That's why whenever God says, I gave you the eyesight, the hearing, and the brain, you are rarely using it. That means that most of our faculties, we don't use our, critical thinking or analytical thinking, and we just go by the day like a zombie, and new information comes and it just rattles people. Oh, now you want me to doubt my ancestors? That's a lot of work.
Yeah, on that topic of ingenious ideas coming out, it's interesting because there's a thinking and
Someone is beating
processing it. Oh,
who is beating
Sorry, that was me. I was packing my stuff. Sorry.
You know, like we get this information, we got to think about it. And there's an interesting thing about how having the information go to your heart is another type of thinking that must be, God must have the control. I don't know how that works, because, for example, the mathematical miracle was explained in Scientific American back in the 80s. And they said this is an ingenious study of the Quran. But that's for a lot of people. Oh, that's really ingenious. Oh, wow, what a great idea. And that's it. It's like ideas can just be fascinating, but they don't go. It's the other step of when does it turn into proof for people? You know, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, I noticed that there is a saying, educated fools. I think we can see that in many scientists, even
Right.
his behavior of refusing to get out of your comfort zone. And they speak of themselves as truth seekers, like, oh, we follow the evidence.
Right.
Well, okay, here is the mathematical miracle of the Quran. Walk your talk.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen. They just dismiss it. Oh,
Right.
it's just numerology. Because,
Hey, you guys know what kind of trees grow in the area that they say Noah might have been? Were they more of a palms, not like pine trees and stuff like that, right? Not like the heavy.
no idea.
Because I think it's more of that floating, like palm. Palm is can float very well, right? Has a lot of air pour. Or is it all?
It has to be palm. Yeah. The date palms or something. Long logs.
Because they don't have like oak and stuff like that, right, over there.
That's a long time ago. The climate has changed since that time, so it's hard to know. There's the people of the woods, and that's in the Middle East too, the Midian. So you don't see any woods around there now. So
I'm looking at a history website right now, and literally using scientific method to have proof. You know, it doesn't go back that far. It doesn't go back 150,000 years. Anything that's over 60,000 years is all speculation, even among scientists. But in far as having evidence, I think the earliest one goes around 12,000 years or something like that, BCE, before change of the calendar. So 12 plus 2 was 14.
Check this out. I'm looking at Noah on Wikipedia, and it says there's a section there called Noah's drunkenness.
Wow.
And it says, after the flood, the Bible says that Noah became a husbandman, and he planted a vineyard. He drank wine made from the vineyard and got drunk. He lay quote unquote uncovered within his tent. Noah's son Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father naked and told his brothers, which led to Ham's son Canaan being cursed by Noah. As early as the classical era, commentators on Genesis 9:20-21 have excused Noah's excessive drinking because he was considered to be the first wine drinker, the first person to
Oh my
discover the
God.
effects of wine.
Whoa.
He would not know its effect. Through ignorance and inexperience of the proper amount of drink, fell into a drunken stupor.
I can imagine like 20 really highly bearded men sitting around a table where we must solve this problem.
Yeah. I think that was represented in that movie Noah also about his drinking. That
Yeah, and it says
Oh, I forgot about that movie.
in
Russell
Jewish
Crowe.
tradition
Yeah.
is that in Jewish tradition and rabbinic literature on Noah, rabbis blame Satan for intoxicating properties of the wine.
Wow.
Well, it's interesting because that's kind of in connection with the Quran says that intoxication is a tool of Satan's, you know. So there's like some ownership to it in a sense.
Yeah, but I mean that per se is not refuted in the Quran, you know, like when you go by you know, the circumcisionist ideology, like, you know, it has to be specifically refuted that didn't happen, and why would you know?
Could you explain that again?
No, I'm
I
saying,
didn't
like,
get
you know,
that.
the circumcisionists, they say that, you know, for something to not be true based on Quran, it has to be specifically refuted by the Quran. Like to say, like, no, Abraham did not circumcise or something, even though we
Oh,
know the general principles are there. So
yeah.
if you apply the same thing here, then they should accept that Noah was drunk, you know.
Yeah, they have no choice but to accept it.
Yeah. Because the Quran doesn't say otherwise, the messenger doesn't say otherwise.
Well, I mean, Noah was the first. That's the first travel. I mean, that means he was the first, sailor. And sailors are always like.
He invented the culture.
Yeah.
Bingo.
So he must talk like a sailor too. Then.
Does that mean he used a lot of bad language too? Because he's a sailor.
4-letter words. All those 4-letter words. Yeah. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Where did this information come from? Wikipedia or what? Bible?
Yeah, Wikipedia, yeah, but it's from the Genesis.
Oh my
It's from the
God.
Bible, yeah.
Genesis is surprising me every day.
Genesis.
Huh?
Yeah.
Oh.
The information from Genesis,
Genesis, yeah.
That's wow.
It also accuses Lot of incest too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lot got drunk and had sex with his daughters.
Oh my goodness. What is this?
That is not confirmed in the Quran.
Yeah, so we have to accept it.
I mean,
wasn't Lot like taken advantage of by his daughters, according to the Bible?
Yeah. It's.
We have to accept that.
Yeah.
I mean, so much nonsense. Oh my God. And it's Satan sitting and insulting, trying to vilify.
Well, because everybody was gay, they were all homosexuals, so they came up with that story, right? Is that their justification?
Oh, yeah. It seems like it's a twist of him offering them his daughters. Like my daughters are these. That's their function,
But I don't think he take my daughters instead. He was more like making a point, like. But people can misinterpret that as well. Like, oh, look at Lut, who was giving away his daughter.
Oh yeah, no.
So Satan is a filthy bastard. Satan.
So what
isn't
his point for saying that?
Huh?
What was his point for saying that? You have a
Yeah. I thought to myself that it means the grossness of what they're doing. That puts it into proportion. That
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, people will use that against Lut as well. Lot.
I mean, but he did say that. So what did he actually mean? Because it's hard
Oh no,
to.
he was just like saying, "Oh, take my daughters instead." Like, why do you do with the man? Do with like.
Yeah,
But he
yeah.
was
He was
like
saying that
saying, "Oh, take them,
you
take."
guys,
He wasn't saying like,
So as a figure of
yeah,
speech,
because
not literally.
yeah,
yeah, but just to make a point that they were only interested in men, not
yeah,
the women, right?
exactly.
So it's like, yeah,
But people
What if they
will
said
twist
okay?
that. What?
So I'm assuming if they said okay, he wouldn't have allowed it.
No, I don't think so.
yeah. It's almost like mocking in, like, Abraham
Hmm.
example where he says, okay, I'm gonna worship the sun must be my God, things like that. He
Yeah.
was just mocking, yeah, yeah,
And the best mockery is when he destroyed all the
yeah.
idols except for one. And says, "Yeah, that guy did it." That's genius. Oh man.
I agree, Edward. Though it's tough. I mean, it's a hard one to kind of understand that comment. It. I
Hmm.
mean, yeah.
Used to think that that's my understanding on it, that the grossness of their act is so abominable and bad that he knew that obviously they would not be interested in his daughters, but at least that would not go against the nature and God's laws. To,
Hmm.
maybe he's offering them to marry them or something.
Yeah.
If you really, something like that, and that because the awareness, he was aware what a gross sin it is, that it would be not as gross, if they have a relationship. I don't know how marriages were happening those days and whatnot, but yeah, he was like, it would be, you rather do this. I don't know.
Was it in response to the fact that they were angels? Is that even does that even elevate his panic? I would imagine. Oh, these are angels,
Hmm.
and what kind of retribution would this bring upon us?
I know they were hitting on those angels. They were like
Yeah.
those,
And I
those
think he also felt embarrassed as
so
well.
embarrassed, like, oh my god, like, what is going on here? These angels, like, imagine the presence of angels sitting in your room or living room, and then these guys come like, woohoo, you know. Who are these good looking men? They must be so, they're like, imagine they must be so, such awesome presence over there, right?
Yeah. Wow.
They were not invited either. They forced themselves inside his house, basically.
Yeah, this area in Toronto, my god, we were living in that neighborhood once. That's where the gay parade would originate, and the beating of the drums and everything like would haunt for weeks. All the streets would be blocked, and the party will start.
Oh wow.
uh, yeah, it starts like weeks before it used to be Pride Day, then it turned into Pride Week, then now it's Pride Month, the whole month
What?
celebration. Yes,
Oh
the,
my
the,
goodness.
the entire month goes on celebrating. The streets colors are changed, the sidewalks have the rainbow. Rainbow has been kidnapped.
Yeah, poor Rainbow.
It's, yeah, poor Rainbow. I was such a Rainbow lover.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, same, and they did the same thing in America too with San
My
Francisco, if you
umbrella.
maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
umbrella.
but
The
I
other
think
kids. Yeah,
yeah,
the whole
I
month,
think
huh?
the whole
Yeah,
month,
obviously
yeah.
San Francisco.
Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah,
it happens in
that's what
other cities
affected here.
also. Yeah, but in I when I was working last year, I was working with for a company in San Francisco, and I mean, I wasn't literally in San Francisco. I was working remotely, but they celebrated the whole month, and every day they were like putting money towards charity, collecting money every week to give to the gays, and
Yeah.
it's just like, why would you do that?
Oh, so the charity goes to them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can see a conspiracy here.
Hmm.
I wonder if we can petition for a not gay pride parade.
Oh yeah, there was this one guy who I think he was someone in the government in some other state, and then he says, "Okay, we're gonna have a straight month," and then he was fired.
Whoa.
Wow, that's discrimination. Because
Yeah.
if you permit one group to do it, if the city does that and they refuse to let us have the parade, we could sue the city because that's discrimination. They're not allowed to do that, to allow gays to have a parade,
Mm,
but have a not gays can't have a parade.
yeah, I don't think they care about justice. But I think it's beyond saving. I
Well,
think
they care about money.
only God can, neutralize whatever is going on in the world.
Give me back my rainbow,
Yeah.
We have that in Sweden as well. Like, it's crazy. But here in Sweden, it's so tolerate. They tolerate everything. Like, they even have racists. Like these racist groups that want to demonstrate and march and make that the salute, the Hitler salute, and they yell like out with all the like non-natives, out with all the immigrants and stuff like that, and racist slurs and whatever, and that's allowed.
Yeah,
And
just imagine. Sorry.
and the police protects them.
Just imagine there are people who say we believe in God alone, and we're gonna demonstrate this the whole month. We're gonna worship on the streets.
Yeah.
We're gonna say we're gonna do zikr day and night because the
Oh my god, that would be
satanic
lovely.
music. I know. And would anybody allow that? No.
It's religious
No.
discrimination. Someone who doesn't believe as you might hear.
Yeah. But you must believe in this expression, and it has nothing to do with anything except whatever.
I think they have brainwashed the average person so much now with all this stuff. Like
Yeah.
when you talk about homosexuality now, it's like uncomfortable for people to accept because it's politically, incorrect for them.
It's amazing how the human
So,
brain works. I think that also explains why certain communities get annihilated completely, like
mhm.
to protect other communities.
Yeah, even amongst people who call themselves submitters, there have been people who have been like trying to change it, like with the homosexuality and stuff. Like there's people that are saying that homosexuality is condemned, but only between men,
Wow.
because the Quran doesn't talk about the women.
Homosexuality
And
is homosexuality.
I know, and then And then and then some people are going towards the modern interpretation of the Bible, where they're saying that the people of Lot were condemned because they were involved in gang rape, so it's okay, like if it's not that, if it's just So, but yeah, but what I wanted to say was, I mean, really, when a messenger comes and reminds people of the truth, their reaction as to how they're so convinced that these people are so convinced that these are right, and look at their response. It says, the leaders among his people said, "We see that you are far astray." Right? That was for people of Noah. And then for people of Hud, they said, "We see that you behave foolishly, and we think that you are a liar." And same for Saleh, same for Lot, and it's the same, like when you tell people that they're doing something wrong, I mean, their egos are so big that they can't accept the possibility that what they're following is nonsense, and they consider you astray, and I think it kind of relates to what Edward was saying about what us as Samirs would go through with circumcision too. It's like, they're saying, "Oh, they went astray," like um, yesterday, someone was telling me, they're part of this group, some Iranian group, where they're having Quran studies online. They used to be on the pen, and they got moved after the circumcision debate.
Wait. I didn't tell you this.
No, I didn't say you told me this. No, I said I was telling
okay.
you.
Okay.
Someone told me that there's this Iranian group. So they used to be on the pen when we started. They used to be on Skype and stuff, and they're having their studies. And then we brought them on the pen, and they were having studies. And then when the circumcision debate came up, like, these people from San Jose, they got them moved over to some other platform. And so some of the submitters from LA, I think, are probably on it as well, because they're in touch with the people in Iran. So they told me that, someone from San Jose was telling them, don't use any of his apps, like any of his software, because Suleiman's, because he doesn't believe in circumcision. So don't use his, don't use his apps.
He's crazy. He doesn't want to mutilate babies.
Yeah.
Like, what insanity.
Yeah, so then they say that, I mean, like, yeah, so, and I forgot we were live, but yeah, there's other people that have literally used the word astray. It's like, oh, this man has gone astray.
Wow.
Yeah.
For not wanting to mutilate babies.
Yeah, for something that's not in the Quran.
we have to keep repeating that to put it in perspective.
Yeah. Maybe we're missing something.
Maybe they're missing the point. It's sad. Like, I don't care about them. I care about their children. Like, the children, the innocent.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why I'm telling them, reminding them.
Mm. Yeah, I think the best thing we can do is not circumcise our kids, and God willing, they won't circumcise their kids. It's like a vicious cycle.
Yeah. But they interpret it as hate and whatever.
Mm.
See, that's what I was saying earlier. How it's exactly like Lot did. We enjoin you from talking to others.
Mm.
And it's what they're doing, and they're in our religion. They are among us. they did it on Facebook, you know, like you guys. I already went through this, you know. I already explained it when I did my study recitation.
Mm.
The arrogant leaders. They make themselves, they're the arrogant leaders that step out in opposition. And it does seem that the people who do this, like you just said, on the people who did it on Facebook and the people who just did what you said on the pen, they are the arrogant leaders. They literally are the people among us who are more of the leader types, you know, position. They want to be the chiefs, you know. And that's the person exactly like that is the one who tried to get all the Iranians to leave the pen because of you.
Whoa.
He's the kind of person that sees himself as a prominent leader. So he is an arrogant leader among us.
Yeah, I was wondering about Lot's wife, and the fact that the Quran says, but don't look back. And then the Bible story has that when she looked back, she turned into a pillar of salt. Do you feel like that's enough of a confirmation, the Quran, or do you think that, because what would be the significance of unless it was actually in reference to that event?
Oh, okay. So I didn't, because I thought,
I always imagined it to be meteorites striking.
You know, but it says clay. It says clay. I don't know if that matters, but clay to me, in the Quran, it's that it was rocks of clay.
Rocks of clay.
Which to me, yeah. So it really gives it a different.
Rocks of clay.
Yeah, we will shower them with rocks of clay. But it doesn't say aged clay or potter's clay, so I'm not sure. But clay indicates that it's a rock of some type. That's why I use meteor also, but that when I read rocks of clay, I don't know what else to think. I kind of think sometimes it may have been, I don't know, some type of underground methane explosion or something, and it shot up rocks of clay, and they landed on them or something, you know. Because I don't know.
Wow. Isn't clay like one of the layers that's deeper under the ground?
Well, clay is a sedimentary.
Yeah, you got to go through certain layers of the earth, and then you get to clay.
Just like 1 meter, maybe. Like,
it depends on where you live.
Yeah.
It's like right here where I live, you go down 2 inches and you hit clay. So yeah, it's just.
Could it be a volcano that exploded and then shot up all those material in the sky?
That's not clay. That's salt, right?
And then it was burning.
That's why I was thinking some type of methane explosion underneath of a lake or a river, or I don't know, you know, something old. I don't know. I can't come up with it, but I don't know the significance of clay there.
I'm reading here. Meteors are no more than dust and ice. Meteorites can be stony, made up of minerals rich in silicon and oxygen. Let's see. Maybe asteroids?
Assalamu alaikum. I have to
Salãmun Alaykum.
go now. Have a nice rest
Okay.
of the session.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay.
Take care.
You too. Thanks. And yeah, inshallah, talk to you guys tomorrow.
Inshallah.
Who's doing the next study?
I have no idea. Who is?
Okay.
Does anyone know?
Edward, who's after you always? Do you know?
Oh, I didn't keep track. Maybe it's I don't
Me
know.
neither. I don't know either.
I never kept track of that.
Okay.
I always thought I'm somewhere around when Nudrat does hers. Or...
Yeah.
So Ahmad has done it and Jeff has done it.
Have you done it, Nudrat, during Ramadan?
Yeah, during Ramadan I did once.
Yeah. Okay. So
maybe it's you, Jeff.
Maybe it is. Oh, okay. I'll go back and look at the order. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe
Well,
we need to
Salāmun
have
Alaykum.
like a calendar, inshallah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Salāmun Alaykum. Good luck.
I'm reading here that asteroids contain water or ice, rather, and they are yeah.
It's just that to me, clay seems to imply erosion, and which would have some type of, weather.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have no idea what caused it or what it was exactly.
Right.
But it says rocks of clay. That's all we got.
Mm-hmm. And also, I think that if you go to Saudi Arabia, they have tours and show you where Sodom was, but I don't know how realistic, how actual that is. But the Quran says that evidence of it to remind you. And so maybe it is in Saudi Arabia area. I don't know.
So they invented homosexuality?
Okay.
That's off topic.
No,
No, I'm being mean.
that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a tourist attraction, basically.
Yeah, I think so. That's right. That's exactly. I think so.
They have turned the Kaaba in Mecca into a tourist attraction.
Yeah, exactly. Hmm.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
so yeah, I was just talking to you know, the Toby's owner lady.
Yes. Uh-huh.
I
Yep.
don't think she's on, but she left the study when we talked about two things. We talked about we talked about circumcision. We talked about homosexuality, and then we talked about circumcision. And apparently, she
Right.
had she had a problem with both. Uh, but
Oh,
I don't know if she might join us later. But I sent her the video from Eric Klopper. I had to leave because my flight leaves at a certain time, so I didn't. First, I talked to her a little bit about circumcision, and then she brought up homosexuality, and then it was just becoming very involved. So I told her I had to leave, but I think that it might come up later, probably at some point.
Mm.
Um,
what? That's a good point.
but
So
anyways,
when we have
uh,
somebody new,
sorry, I was gonna say we also have the YouTube live right now, so maybe we could talk about it afterwards.
okay,
Mm.
Yeah.
okay. Well, it looks like we could end the YouTube broadcast now. We're
Yeah,
kind of
sure.
low
Yeah.
on content here. Okay.
Yeah, I think Edward should read tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I can obey those rules of avoiding circumcision. I don't know. I can't agree to that.
No, we weren't saying avoid it or anything. No, I was just saying that's just I just had that conversation. That's all.
She
Right.
left because she didn't like it.
No, that's we left, but
You're breaking up.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, God willing, we will meet tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time to do the next verses in this continuous series of Quran studies. So, Salāmun Alaykum, everyone. God
Assalamu
bless.
alaikum.
Okay.